Video game companies and the studios behind them often take various approaches to advertising upcoming releases. This can range from highlighting features that make the actual game stand out from others, special editions, advertising campaigns, tie-ins with other brands or companies, and promotional material in general. Usually this can be well received or just sort of fall by the wayside. However, there was one game release that took these ideas and really ran with them. From unique experts assisting with the development of the game to peculiar special editions, charity projects, and multiple brands and companies releasing physical items, such as tomahawks and camouflage uniforms, 2012's Medal of Honor Warfighters release was arguably one of the most interesting but also controversial for a plethora of reasons. Chances are good you've heard of the game franchise Medal of Honor, one of the top 3 World War II turned modern warfare shooters, the other 2 being Battlefield and Call of Duty. Started in the late 1990s by DreamWorks Interactive under the leadership of Steven Spielberg, who had just recently finished the film Saving Private Ryan, it was created as a way to be both engaging and educational for kids. Come 1999, the game, simply called Medal of Honor, was released for the PlayStation. Being a huge hit, it wasn't long until it was franchised, seeing numerous games, some of which saw additional expansion packs as well. As the 2000s moved forward, the World War II shooter was sort of losing its appeal. Coupled with competition from other similar games like Call of Duty and Battlefield, Medal of Honor was slowly falling out of popularity. And so, as a way to try and keep itself relevant, Electronic Arts, the parent company, released the game Medal of Honor in 2010, taking the franchise out of the Second World War and into the War on Terror. Copying many cues from its competition, the game saw modernization not only in the time period, but also its game engine, customization, and many other factors. Being loosely based on Operation Anaconda, a 16-day-long large-scale operation seen in the opening months of the war in Afghanistan, reviews and sales were pretty good, and so it wasn't long until a sequel was announced. However, the angle it would go with would be slightly different. Medal of Honor Warfighter would build upon its predecessor, seeing some of the same characters, however focused more on Tier 1 Special Forces operators, placing them in scenarios and missions, many of which took inspiration from actual real-world operations and combat zones, such as Mogadishu, Somalia, the rescue of Captain Phillips of the Maersk, Alabama, the Battle of Marawi in the Philippines, and the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound. This approach of tethering the story and missions to real-world elements would extend to the writing and consulting as well, as numerous members of the Special Forces community helped in the development of the game in many ways, as it mainly focused on relating the campaign to Special Forces units, what they had to go through, and the repercussions, both good and bad, of living that life. Starting around March 2012 or so, videos would begin to be posted to the official Medal of Honor YouTube channel, primarily relating to more run-of-the-mill things such as trailers, gameplay, developer commentary, updates, and interviews. However, there were a few uniquely tailored things, such as 2 songs, Lies, Greed, Misery, and Castle of Glass from the album Living Things, Linkin Park's 5th studio album, which were used with the later seeing a fully fleshed out music video with plot points, visuals, and themes tying to the game. A short series of videos in which former SEAL Team 6 operators discuss things related to training, operations, and scenarios that may be encountered. A special Zero Dark 30 DLC which would see levels based on locations from the movie, which itself told the story of the manhunt for Osama bin Laden, and a series of interviews with companies like Kanan, Surefire, US Optical, LaRue Tactical, Trijicon, Magpul, and SOG that highlighted equipment and gear, all of which were used both in-game as well as for photo shoots. Eventually, come October 23, 2012, Medal of Honor Warfighter was finally released for Windows, Xbox 360, and PlayStation, seeing the Standard Edition, Limited Edition, Project Honor Edition, a Walmart exclusive which donated a portion of the sales of the Project Honor initiative, and included the Zero Dark 30 maps, a Navy SEAL sniper character, and a special 37+ minute long documentary titled Global War Fighters, which talked about numerous agencies and Special Forces units. And finally, the Military Edition, a version reserved exclusively for active, reserve, and retired US military personnel that was only available through GovX Inc., the biggest online shopping outlet for confirmed law enforcement, military, and their families, which included the limited edition of the game as well as special in-game unlocks, most notably a digital version of the Project Honor camouflage for multiplayer that effectively denoted the wearer as an armed forces member. We'll be talking about that camo in just a bit. Now, though there was some slightly unorthodox promotional material surrounding the game, these more or less fit the bill when when it came to game tie-ins and content to help advertise its release. However, there was one much larger and much more significant, which ultimately would result in quite a bit of good and also quite a bit of controversy. If we jump back to June of 2012, EA announced via a press release the Project Honor Initiative, which was, quote, a program dedicated to raising awareness and generating charitable contributions for fallen warriors from the Special Operations community in honor of the sacrifices they and their families have made for their country. Through a unique partnerships program with EA for Medal of Honor Warfighter, elite weapon and gear manufacturers who equip the Special Operations community, including Kanan, London Bridge Trading, Magpul, Surefire, Mechanics Wear, and others, will donate to the Navy SEAL Foundation and their Special Operations Warrior Foundation for the benefit of Project Honor. It went on to say that these companies would have their products featured in the game to help deliver the most authentic video game warfare experience, and specified that select partners have signed up to create and sell exclusive Medal of Honor themed merchandise and donate 100% of the proceeds of their sales to the Navy SEAL Foundation, the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, and other charities. London Bridge Trading Company is leading the way with an entire line of gear showcasing an exclusive Project Honor camouflage pattern. These brands would be listed on the Medal of Honor website with links that brought visitors to the company's sites as well. If you play through the game, a few obvious pieces are the Mechanics Wear gloves, often seen being worn by your character, a US optic scope on the hat trick level, Kanan sunglasses worn by numerous characters throughout, the SOG Tomahawk, which can be used for door breaching, and the Project Honor camouflage, which is also worn by your character during many levels and is only noticeable if you look down or during certain cutscenes. The final level did, though, have all of your teammates equipped with the pattern for the duration of the mission. Made by LBX Tactical and actually officially known as the Project Honor Camouflage, this pattern, of all the specially made items to promote the game, seemingly stood above the rest. First off, let's quickly clarify the difference between LBT and LBX. LBT stands for London Bridge Trading, the parent company of LBX, or London Bridge X. The difference between the two is that LBT is Berry compliant, meaning all the materials and manufacturing are created and performed within the United States. LBX, like LBT, sees their products made of the same materials and also assembled in the US. However, a good amount are also produced in Peru, meaning the final price point is a bit lower. Though the two lines sometimes have overlaps as far as items go, their quality standards are the same, but LBX will sometimes lack certain features or components that the LBT equivalent will have. Okay, with that out of the way, let's actually look at the design. By and large, quite literally, it's a digital one consisting of more transitional colors, sporting a tan background with light green, and dark brown colors, with little LBX and MOH emblems scattered throughout. The LBX emblem being the logo of the company, and the MOH being the insignia for Task Force Mako, a special forces unit within the game, which is the one that actually wears the pattern in the final level while sporting a patch of the same design on their arm. Kinda meta in a way, huh? Upon first glance, you may think of Latvia's LatPat design introduced in 2015. This one, though, predates that by a few years, and when it comes to how it was designed, it's much more straightforward. To create the actual pattern, LBX partnered with Element Group and used their actual logo as a basis, that being a lion's head, which was digitized and had its colors changed to brown, light, and dark green. It was then overlapped on top of itself multiple times, all of which was then placed over the tan background. Though it's a bit hard to tell on most of the items made with the pattern, when seen on a larger piece of fabric, it becomes far more noticeable. The supposed idea as to why it was so large was to try and make it more efficient at longer distances, thus avoiding the isoluminance effect smaller digital designs may encounter, where the micro patterns blend into one another, effectively resulting in one large noticeable blob. However, any kind of research or scientific backing behind its creation was never really revealed. Due to this overall appearance, it has also been referred to as Minecraft camo because of its similarity to certain terrain blocks from the game, while also sometimes being misidentified as Latvian because of the aforementioned similarities, and Peruvian due to many pieces having a Binter defense tag inside stating how it was made in Peru of US materials. The closest design Peru has was their two pixelated camos released in 2007, which too see slightly larger digital elements but clearly different colors and shapes. The pattern was featured on many LBX pieces, which included but were not limited to pouches, backpacks, hydration bladders, chest panels, plate carriers, rigs and harnesses, drop leg holsters, a spray paint kit, and the tactical assault shirt and pants, which was the largest and most significant uniform piece. But let's shift gears here for a moment and jump back to the game's release. Soon after it shipped, it was banned in Pakistan due to the portrayal of the country within the story. On top of that, many members of the Navy Special Warfare Development Group who consulted on the game got into a bit of hot water for sharing information relating to somewhat sensitive equipment and gear with the development team. They were reprimanded and faced pay forfeiture for 2 months due to them not getting permission mentioned beforehand. Lastly, and most significantly, as a part of the Project Honor initiative, as well as the selling point of being as realistic as possible rather than more cinematic and grandiose like other shooters, the Warfighter team, and by extension EA, not only highlighted many tactical companies, but also advertised their products, which quickly drew criticism. One of the biggest and earliest examples of this was SOG Specialty Knives and Tools, which had unveiled the F-18-N Voodoo Hawk Medal of Honor Warfighter Limited Edition Tomahawk that was to be released in October and was being promoted on the Medal of Honor website. Now, if you're at all familiar with video games, more specifically violent ones, there has been a very long debate about whether they can lead to violent tendencies in players. Well, this quickly drew the attention of many, claiming that this quite literally connected the two, and so it wasn't long until the promotion was pulled. In addition to this, some were crying foul at the fact that the Medal of Honor website had direct links to Project Honor partners' websites, which featured catalogs and shops where one could buy gear, tactical accessories, and even in some cases bladed weapons and even firearms. On December 14th, the Sandy Hook school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut occurred, leading to a press conference in which the National Rifle Association blamed, among other things, video games, which inevitably led to the age-old debate resurfacing, along with whether gaming studios that created first-person shooters were getting too close to weapon companies. And so in December, all links from the Medal of Honor website were removed, save the ones to buy the game and pre-order future DLC. Additionally, at some point between the SOG controversy and the aftermath of the Newtown shooting, a massive purge of content was seen on the website as well as the official YouTube channel, resulting in numerous videos, posts, and blog entries related to most of the partner companies being removed. But as the old saying goes, any publicity is good publicity, right? Not really in this case. Though these headlines and problems likely didn't help, they didn't exactly hurt the game's release, as it was met with very middle-of-the-road responses, with many critics and outlets giving it scores between 4 and 6 out of 10, citing things like the confusing and disjointed campaign story, glitches and bugs, and predictable gameplay as far as linear levels and enemies were concerned. On top of all this, Call of Duty, its primary competitor, released Black Ops 2 just 3 weeks later. After the dust had settled and the holiday season had passed, the full scope of things finally became clear. Warfighter was a critical and commercial failure. On November 9th, 17 days after the release, estimates had 500,000 copies shipped, which roughly translates to about $30 million US, assuming the game was selling for $60 and the copies were actually bought, with an estimated 3 million units or $180 million come January 7th, which sounds good, but when you compare that to Black Ops 2, which made $500 million in the first 24 hours after its release and $1 billion after 15 days, you realize just how much it underperformed. This inevitably led to EA shelving the Medal of Honor franchise indefinitely, electing to instead focus on its other first-person shooter franchise, Battlefield. But what of the Project Honor initiative and the associated brands and companies? Well, it's hard to say exactly how much money was raised, as really the only mention of figures comes from the Sony Pictures Zero Dark 30 tie-in DLC announcement, which stated that at least $1 million was going to be given to charity. Tie-in product-wise, the only company that seems to have had a lasting presence beyond the game's release and the initiative was London Bridge, as they offered not only the morale patches seen in both Medal of Honor and Warfighter, but also the assortment of Project Honor pieces from around the time of the game's release in late 2012 until early 2016 or so, when just about all mentions of it were removed from LBX's website. As of this video's upload, some pieces are still available for purchase through Airsoft and other tactical supply websites, along with traditional secondhand means, while a number of patches continue to sell through copies and reproductions, with some boasting different colors and material on websites like eBay, AliExpress, and Temu. Regarding the pattern's overall legacy, enthusiasts, be they airsofters, milsimmers, collectors, gamers, or just people knowledgeable on camo, still talk about and debate its merits and detriments to this day. There's even an alleged instance of a Navy SEAL operator sporting a combat shirt with the pattern in Afghanistan, as seen in these two pictures. In 2020, Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, a virtual reality game for the Oculus Rift, was released. Though it was received a bit better than Warfighter, it wasn't enough to bring the franchise back. Finally, in February of 2023, the online servers for Warfighter were shut down, and with backwards compatibility not being available, the only way to play the game's campaign mode is through the original consoles it was released for, or by PC download. But with that, we've just about come to the end of this sort of mold-breaking video. Usually when covering uniforms from video games and other media, the focus is mainly on, well, the uniform, which wasn't exactly what happened here. But the story and all the elements surrounding Warfighter and the Project Honor initiative is a truly uncommon one. One that on its own is rather interesting, but when tethered to LBX's Project Honor camouflage, adds a little more to its significance, and because of it, makes it stand out quite a bit from many other commercial camouflages and uniforms of the screen. If you enjoyed this video, perhaps leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If not, don't worry, we're not going anywhere. Just be sure to check back soon for more videos right here on Uniform History.